Hello and welcome to episode 2 of What Are You Playing? With your host, the lame Derek. And I have two special guests I'm excited to have on. I feel like we've known each other through online for close to a decade now. It's got to be close. And that's yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just too long. Bottom line, it's really
I would
been
agree.
way too long.
I
I'm
would
hoping this
agree.
is the end of the friendship.
Exactly.
very well
You don't
could be.
even know what my show notes are, but basically my goal is to piss you two off to the point where you block me. So that's the goal. But let me start by giving names. First of all, we got Jesse with the North Carolina parking only in the background. How you doing, Jesse?
Good, and yourself?
I am doing wonderful. And then
My
we of
Tar
course
Heels got
have
the 1 seed, so I'm happy.
I know, and I unfortunately saw the game last night and was not happy with
ditto.
their performance. And then we have, I mean, come on, look at his hat. His life has been disappointing already. We have Rob. How you doing, Rob?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me on here. I figured I'd, considering Rogers may be our next vice president, I figured I'd wear the hat.
Well, he can only do better than what you guys have done previously, so you can't go any lower is what I'm trying to say. All right, so welcome to the show. This is just episode 2. I'm just going to give like a brief rundown in case you guys didn't watch episode 1, which is totally fine. But essentially what this show is all about is just a deep dive into whatever you're playing. So I'm bringing on new guests, not new every show, but I'm going to try to get a pretty big roster, a rotation of people that want to come on every once in a month, 2 months, whatever it is. And we just discuss what they're playing. So it could be new, old. It can even be indie, even though I hate indies with a passion. I will allow it. That's how professional I'm being with this show. I'm an absolute professional.
How dedicated.
Completely dedicated. I'm going all in. So I'm actually really excited about the show, not just because I have you two guys on, which, by the way, you're two of my favorite people in all of online.
Mutual.
I don't
brother.
like you guys in real life, but I like you online.
Also mutual.
But I'm also excited because I think it's funny. Of course, no listener is going to know the backstory, but I think it's funny. The first thing I put down for my notes that we would discuss today is handheld gaming. And the reason I think that's funny is I don't think you could get 3 worse guys to discuss handheld gaming. Like, I'm a graphic snob. I wouldn't consider Jesse a graphic snob, but he's an he will disagree with this, but I'm just being exaggerative. He's an anti-handheld gamer. He likes to bitch about the handheld market. And then you have Rob, who I don't.
Handheld.
All right, good. I'm glad I'm accurate. And Rob, I know you're recently getting into handheld, but I would put you in similar to the same boat I would put Rob or Jesse in, and that is, I don't give a crap about handhelds. I'd rather be sitting in front of my TV with the best graphics possible, with the most frames per second as possible, and you just, in general, don't get that with handheld gaming. So the fact that topic number 1 on my note sheet, and I was like, hey, this is something all 3 of us have in common right now, is handheld gaming. So why do we have that in common right now? Well, Jesse, you just purchased what handheld recently?
The Steam Deck.
Okay, and you have the Switch as well, which did you just get that recently too, like within the last year or so?
No, I've had the Switch for a while.
Okay.
I bought it in anticipation for Metroid Prime 4.
Oh, how's that going? Great game, right?
It's just going great.
Nintendo providing right there. You know that's coming out on Switch 3.
Yeah, right.
They'll tease it again.
Maybe in
when
20
Switch
years.
2, yeah, when Switch 2 comes out, they'll be like, here's another 30-second trailer. This game's coming, guys. We're still working on it. It's just coming on Switch 3/Pro. And then Rob, you're also really diving into the handheld market. What did you recently purchase, and what's some of the other handhelds you do have?
Yeah, so I as you and I have discussed a little bit in the past, I just recently purchased the Lenovo Legion Go.
Okay.
And but I've had a Switch. I had the original, and then I had the OLED. I still have the OLED, and probably my first handheld outside some of the old Nintendo Game Boys was the Vita, which Gaston and I were talking about being the other day on in the group about just being one of the better handheld systems, but from the start. I mean, it really had such great. It was just one of the better systems
It was
designed.
definitely better than what the support would make you believe it was. Granted, if you're in like PlayStation groups, it's god of everything because it's Sony. But outside of PlayStation groups, it wasn't really that well received. Not meaning not people reviewing it badly. It just didn't. It didn't sell that great. Not for a handheld, especially if you compare it to what the Vita did compared to anything Nintendo's done previously, just
Or
based on
even the
power,
PSP.
graphics.
The PSP did great too, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the PSP was solid. That was what incentivized them to do a Vita. And I don't even think the Vita came out at a terrible price point. If I remember correctly, and I bought it day one, it was like $300. I swear it was like 300, and it was like packaged with the game. So it wasn't terrible. I mean, granted, for handhelds back then, that wasn't a great price point, but it wasn't terrible. But continue. You were kind of introducing us.
Yeah. So I jumped into this Lenovo Go, having done some research and reading a whole bunch of different reviews, because it has been out already a little over 3 months. It came out in the quarter four of 2023. And it's obviously up against Asus, their Rogue Ally, and Jesse's Steam Deck.
Jesse owns Steam Deck. Correct?
Jesse owns Steam Deck.
I just own it outright, the whole company.
Yeah. But I very much was considering the Steam Deck because it's just such an easy sort of user interface. The user interface is super simple to work with, and it's not Windows based, it's Linux based, so it's super easy to just turn on and get right into your games. Whereas the Go it's really a PC in your pocket sort of deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a little bit more, getting used to downloading, drivers and et cetera. But, like yourself, Derek, you've been working with PCs for a while. It's nothing to be nervous about if that's a concern. I've had it for over a week, and I don't, as I was telling Tim Nestor, I don't have a whole, huge amount of work to sort of give you benchmarks, but for the first week it's been really an awesome device, and I've had really hardly any issues with it, so I've been happy. But I also have things for me that were important. Screen size, because I'm an older guy, so I need something smaller than a 7-inch screen. This is 8.8, so it's a couple inches bigger. And
that's what
ergonomics.
Got it.
That's what. Yeah, and I measured it. It's exactly 8 inches. So it's accurate.
Round up an inch. Give yourself some more inches. It's exactly 9 inches big.
It's exactly 9 inches. Yep, on a good windy day. But yeah, no, it's a nice big screen, and ergonomics are phenomenal on it. I have bigger hands, I have carpal tunnel, so like I can't being crinched like the Vita, the Steam, the Switch. They're very tiny devices. The first things I have to buy for those things immediately are grips, some sort of grip
I don't know
device.
if you guys can see that. I hate how my camera, there we go. See how big this is? I had to buy this because the Switch is so uncomfortable that these bigger handhelds like this, the wider, is so much more comfortable. Like it's a huge difference. Huge difference.
Yes. Yeah.
Because my hands will cramp. Like even on the Steam Deck, it will start to cramp.
Yeah, and that's and it certainly can be fixed with third-party accessories, but right out of the box, the Go is immediately comfortable in your hands, Derek. I mean, you don't need to do any of that. I went on to Etsy. The only thing I bought was something that fits in the middle of the two Joy-Cons when you take them off, because you could use it like a Switch, where you you have like tablet mode where you would put it because it has.
Oh, I got you,
kickstand.
like a controller. Right. Got it.
Bingo.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so there were a couple 3D print things on Etsy where you can just remove those Joy-Cons, attach it to this sort of trap. I don't know what the exact design would be, but it almost looks like a trapezoid. And then you attach it to it, and then it creates a controller.
So I don't know. This is sidetracking. I don't know if I should thank you or yell at you for introducing me to the world of Etsy, because I saw you and my favorite gay online buddy going back and forth about some of the cool stuff on Etsy, and I immediately went on there when I saw the Bloodborne thing that he shared, and I was like, "Oh, I'm buying this right now." But the problem is that's all I looked at. I didn't look at anything else. I bought it right away. And then I started looking at everything else, and I'm like, oh God, this is bad. This is bad, because I'm gonna buy The Witcher 3. I'm gonna buy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth stuff. I'm gonna go crazy. But anyways, that's sidetracking.
Basically, anything you want, you can find on Etsy.
It's absolutely, it looks like
Custom
high
made.
quality stuff too.
It is.
Like not
It
cheap
is.
bull crap. Like this is really
Yes.
cool looking stuff. And then after I bought the Bloodborne thing, which by the way is supposed to come in tomorrow, so I'm excited to check that out. I get a message like, "Oh, if you want to buy another one, here's a 10% coupon." I'm like, "Okay, okay, let me get Bloodborne, let me approve it, and then more than likely I'm gonna go either Baldur's Gate 3, which is considered my favorite game right now of all time, or something like The Witcher 3 or something like that." Not to deter you away from what you were discussing, but let me ask you this. I don't know if you said it. Do you have a Steam Deck still, correct?
No, I never went the Steam Deck route.
I swore you bought it. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it was an either or sort of thing, and I was kind of talking with Jesse about it because he went the Steam Deck route, which I'll let him, discuss the reasoning and why he went that route. But I went the other way, and I went with the Legion Go, yeah, no, I don't have the Steam Deck. I went just right to the Lenovo. And let me just say, I don't think in any way this would ever, like you mentioned already, Derek, I don't think this would ever replace me booting up my PC or using my Xbox or my PlayStation. I will never be sitting in my house playing with this thing. Not when I have an 88-inch, HD 4K TV. I have a
look at him throwing out all those inches, bro.
Yeah.
Kim's not on here. She's not impressed. She's not impressed. You don't have to throw out all those inches. Besides, she knows it's all a lie. She's like, that's a lie.
That would explain the tape measure by the bed. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Fake news. All right, so you're impressed, which I like to hear. I only have one question right off the bat, and then we're going to move because I want to give Jesse some time to talk Steam Deck. Is there any games? I know you haven't been able to run a lot, but even I know you do a lot of research like me. So when I buy something, I go nuts, like looking at, is this what I want? Is it going to do exactly what I want? So the only thing the little bit of research I did is I was a little disappointed because I want to go Lenovo Go because I'm like, dude, it's bigger screen. It has the detachable Joy-Cons essentially, which I like, and it's a 1600p screen. But my only issue is through my research. So if you found something different, please tell me. I haven't seen any games that can even do 1600p and run at least 30 frames per second and above, even using like FSR or anything like that. Do you know of any games that can run higher than, let's say, 1080p? Most of the benchmarks I saw were comparing against Steam Deck, and they're like, it basically runs a little better than Steam Deck at 800p, and I'm like, I don't want to pay more money for a screen that's better if all it's doing is running at the same benchmarks as a Steam Deck or an Ally. So have you found any differences in what I'm saying?
So I'm here to make your dreams come true. It is in fact accurate that you can play things above 800p.
Okay.
I played the new RoboCop that came out again the end of last year, and I immediately put it to the middle of the setting, the 1200, because I figure that's, from all my research, a lot of people were saying, if you play the middle of the 1200p, it's obviously better than 800, a little less than 1600, and you're within reason with thermal output, and you put it in medium settings or whatnot, you're gonna get decent FPS. So I tested it yesterday, actually. I put it in RoboCop, which again is not some grand open world game, and it's a relatively linear experience, right? But great graphics in that game for what it is. So I had it on 1200p. I put it all on high, actually. Had all the high settings. You can put an FPS limiter within the settings. I set it to 60, and it never dipped below 60, Derek.
Oh, good. I like hearing that. Okay.
Yeah, and so my first experience doing it was successful. Now to your point, and I know you know the answer. I know you know exactly what I'm about to say. It will be able to run the smaller games, the Dead Cells, the Ori. You can play those at 1600 with high maxed out, and you'll have no problem because it's also 144 hertz screen. So you're
kind of selling me on this. I have it in my cart.
Yeah, just buy it right now.
Because I told you I could get it 1 terabyte one. It is used. It's an open box, but it's excellent condition. $600. So it's $100 less than, actually $150 less than the 1 terabyte brand new. And I was like, ooh, let me have my conversation with Rob first, and then if Rob says what I want to hear, which I believe you work for Lenovo now.
I do.
So you are lying to me. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to be very angry because I'm going to be playing at 720p at 30 frames per second. You are a liar. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I like what I'm hearing. I won't say 100% I'm going to buy it because I'm actually, you and I spend a little bit. We're a little bit different than the other guy I'm going to talk to in a second. We spend a little bit more. We're a little bit more liberal. Not politically, but I am actually like, I had it in my cart and I literally was about ready to hit buy, and I was like, Derek, you already have plans to pay off your PC. You should not do this. So there was like a part of me is like, you shouldn't do this. I'm just going to tell you the outcome. That part of me is going to lose, especially after this conversation. That part of me is going to be like, Derek, and I'm going to like, shut up, dude. I'll pay it off in like 2 months. We're good. I'll justify it in some way. All right, so I've been delaying. Good. I like hearing what I hear. Let's talk Steam Deck. Jesse, you just picked one up. You got it for a great deal. What has been your initial impressions? What have you been playing on it? What's your overall thoughts on your Steam Deck experience?
So I've probably put about 7 hours of usage on it so far.
Okay.
So it's not like I've gone all crazy testing it out and stuff, but I've played the Thermaturge, I think is how you pronounce it. I've put probably about 5 hours into that, and I've played about 2 hours of Black Mesa, the remake of Half-Life.
Ooh.
Both of them run well on the Steam Deck. Of course, graphically, they're both downgraded.
Yeah.
Fairly significantly to run on that device, but they run smooth. They don't look bad by any means. They look better than the Switch. So that's all good. And I do agree with you guys that holding it does feel a little small, but going from the Switch to the Steam Deck is like a revolutionary experience. It feels
it's still
infinitely
way
better.
Yeah.
Infinitely
it doesn't
better.
feel like a toy.
Yeah.
It feels like a fully. It's a nice feel to it. I would say it feels thicker. I like the back. I like the humps.
It's got some weight to it.
Yeah, I like that. So I did not know we were going to talk about this. I just booted up Half-Life 2 and was playing it for an hour or so the other day. Downloaded it on my laptop. So tell me a little bit more about this. What is it? Black Mesa?
Black Mesa. It's a fan remake
of the original Half-Life.
Of the original
Half-Life
that was okayed by Valve. So the fans were allowed to remake it, and it's a complete from the ground up remake of it that you can buy on Steam.
Nice. I think you just Wow, I'm getting poor. I need to kick you guys off my. I'm buying a Go, and I already bought a new. I'm gonna buy a new game very, very soon. I'm actually gonna look at this because I was like, dude, why haven't you played? Like, I played Half-Life 2 a little bit on the 360 when I bought the orange box collection.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys had bought that
Yep.
or
I
have
have
bought
it
it.
for the 360, I think. Yeah.
Okay,
Same.
if
Same.
you're interested in it at all, I literally just bought it on Steam for $1, and it comes with 5 games. So it's 99 cents. I was like, I gotta buy this. So I actually booted it up, and I was like, because I'm for some reason, and maybe it's all the games I've been playing lately. I'm like itching for a fast-paced first-person shooter. And so I booted up Half-Life 2, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I'm in the mood for. Now, I get how it's got a little bit of Portal to it, where it's like there's a lot of like you get into these areas and you're like, I've got to solve a puzzle.
Yep.
Which, if anybody knows anything about me, unless the
They're your
puzzle like
favorite things.
yeah, unless the puzzle goes, hey Derek, put that thing there, I get annoyed. I'm like, come on, dude, I just want to move forward. So I was like an hour in, I was like, okay, come on, dude. I just wanted to fly through. I wanted to play Doom, essentially, is what I wanted.
It kind
Um,
of harkens back to like the Tomb Raider kind of days where you have sections of action and then you have a puzzle,
yes.
then a section of action. Yeah.
But it does feel good. Like the shooting feels good. The like how quick it is. Like I'm running it. I don't have any monitor over 144 hertz, so I was maxing it out. All the settings, which that's not like a flex. Maxing out all the settings, and it was running at a clean, smooth 144, no droppage. And I was just like, it's so lightning quick. Like let me say this 60 frames per second is absolutely great. You really don't need more than that. But when you start playing more and more and more games at 120, 144, you can start to feel the difference even between 60 and that, even though you go, well, yeah, it's a big number. But I'm talking like you'll start to see it and you'll start to feel it. It's almost like it starts to turn in that jump from 30 to 60. I don't know if you guys really remember the jump from 30 to 60. It's very
Oh yeah.
drastic. But when I first did it, I'm talking when I first did it, I was like, okay. It wasn't a big deal. But then as I kept playing stuff in 60, 60, 60, 60, and then tried to go back to 30, I was like, how did we ever do this? Like you just become so entitled. You're like, how did we ever go back to this? Um, so anyway, so playing these games at 144 or a lot of times 120, it's so silky smooth and it feels so good on a first person shooter. Other games, you can get away with it. Like, I'm not going to talk about it right now, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'm playing on quality mode. I am not playing on performance because I do not like the way it looks at 30 frames per second. And I'm not making an excuse for the game because I think I'm annoyed it's not on PC. But I have not once when I was playing it going, I really need that extra 30 frames per second. It's just not one of those games where you need it. But if you try to play a first person shooter at 30, which I did with Redfall on Xbox Series X, and that thing
Train
was
wreck.
so clunky. I had to go to PC. I'm the only person in all of America who beat Redfall. Everybody else quit after 5 minutes. They're like, what is this? I'm the only person in the entire world that's beat that game. I'm in the Guinness Book of Nobody Cares records for that game. I'm kidding if people haven't figured that out. But not a lot of people like that game. But anyways, on Series X, it was terrible at 30 frames per. It first of all, it wasn't even a good looking game, and then you're limiting people to only play it at 30.
I have to
But
admit, I think it boggles my mind that we still even have games at 30 frames per second.
I get it. I can understand it if a game is like open world and extremely detailed. I'm talking like like even Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Don't get me wrong, there's some blemishes, but if you actually look at it and compare it to like remake, you can see where they upgraded. Not to mention it also goes open world, whereas remakes never open world.
Yep.
But you can see where they like really went into details of rocks and stuff like that. In fact, part of their problem is because they're so detailed, sometimes they don't even load in. Like you're just sitting there and you're like, dude, that's not how the rock's supposed to look. Um, but but yeah, I get it. Like I think 30 frames, we have to start moving on from that. I think the decision that they need to make going forward, even with a PS5 Pro or Xbox Series XX, Triple X, whatever you want to call it, is it needs to, if you're doing 4K, it has to be 60 frames per second.
But see,
If you
I'm
can't
kind
do
of
that,
of the
you should be
mind.
dropping it to 1440p. You should
Yeah,
have an option for 1440p.
I'm of the mind to just play it at 1440p at 60. I would much rather that. Like, and as you guys know, I'm not the graphics snob that you guys I think are, but
Oh, I'm
I don't think
100%. I don't
4K
hide it.
is like essential. I think
It's not.
1440p at 60 is good enough.
Well, now that I bought a 1440p monitor, I had one before, but I'm recently using it. I'm not gonna say what a lot of people want me to say, and that's 1440p is almost the same as 4K. That's bullshit. Anybody that says that just has not played on a nice 4K monitor or a nice 4K TV. It's not. But I'm also not gonna sit here and act like my 1440p doesn't look good. There can be good looking games at 1440p, and that 60 frames per second matters. And so if I'm going to do a quality mode at 4K at 30 frames per second, you really should have a 1440p at 60 frames per second, and at worst 1080p 60. Just give them the option. The problem is you look at a game like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they gave you the option. And a lot of people, I'm not going to say most, I don't have the numbers, but in just the groups I've been in, people that usually do 60 are not doing 60 on that game because they're like, I can't handle all the blurry grossness of it. And they're actually turning it up to 4K because of how, because it honestly, that game doesn't even run at 1440p. Digital Foundry did their little research and they said most of the time it's barely above 1080p, which is crazy to me.
Yeah,
Again,
it is
these are
crazy.
consoles that were advertising 8K.
You're right.
I don't
Right.
even know how they got away with that. To me,
That
that
was a
is
joke.
blatant
Yeah.
false advertisement. What game can run at 8K on your PS5 or Xbox Series X? I know. I mean, I'm sure there
I
is
don't
like
even think there's an indie game that can do it.
maybe
that
Vampire
Yeah,
Survivor,
that's what I was thinking.
which is
Vampire
like
Survivor.
the ugliest game that's just like dots on the screen. They're like, look at this 8K dot game. Maybe something like that.
Right.
Anyways, we went on a tangent. That's kind of the point of the show, is just to have conversations. But going back to Steam Deck, um, what what are your thoughts on, has it changed your view on handheld gaming at all, or is it still, I'll buy them if it's at the right price, but it's if for maybe one specific game I'll do it. Otherwise, I don't care about it at all. I don't have a positive experience with it overall. What's your
Well,
take on it, Jesse?
I'm in the middle of both of those statements.
Okay.
It hasn't necessarily changed my mind on handheld gaming. Like, I'm gonna buy a dock for the Steam Deck so that I can play it on my TV, for better or worse, just so that I can connect a controller to it and play it via that method. But I also don't think it was a waste of money. It's a very cool device that will give me access to games that I don't have access to currently.
Correct.
So I
And
think
mods.
yeah,
For some
in
of your older
mods,
games that you like Knights of the Old Republic 2 has a mod where you get additional content that was supposed to be on the Switch that never came.
right?
But yeah, stuff
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah.
I had a
So
question about that. Speaking of mods, not to interrupt, to derail your thought process there, Sarah, but like, being that it's in Linux, are you going to download and install Windows? Are you going to make it a Windows machine? Because I know with mods, like a little bit that I very surface level that I know seems to work in the Windows environment. I don't know how well it does in Linux.
So there are certain programs that you can download to the Steam Deck that enable mod usage. So I followed a very detailed tutorial to download those programs that I need, because once you put it to desktop mode, you have access to Firefox and can roam the web and everything. So I haven't tested out the mods yet, just because I just haven't used the device enough yet. But I have downloaded mods onto my Steam Deck and just need to test it out now.
Cool.
So what you're saying is you're gonna buy a copy of Sekiro, so you can become a Soulsborne because you're gonna download mods and start dominating all those bosses and never die like I did.
Right. Yeah, just download a mod for easy mode and call it good.
Yeah, I had to do that with that game. I got all the way to the final boss on my Xbox playthrough, and then on PC I was like, "Oh, there's a mod that like you can
Basically
change your
God
attack
mode.
power." Not really, like it's still the game the way it's like the leveling system is done. You have to beat bosses to make your attack power increase. You still have to do that. Like you can't just go in there and flick a switch and be like, "I'm attack power 100." But they made it where what was it that you do? I think if you gain enough experience or something, you can upgrade your sword attack power, and you don't need to beat the bosses to do that. So I forgot what I did. I haven't played it in a while, but I was doing that and I got my attack power extremely high. And by the way, it still doesn't one shot these bosses either, which is crazy. It'll one shot like regular enemies, but even with high attack power, it's just like these guys will still deflect the crap out of you. And if you hit them, they're still like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, all right." you know. Anyways, that's another thing. So overall, handheld gaming, you guys liking it, which is super cool. I thought it was hilarious in our chat talking mods, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Rob and Jesse are PC nerds now, like modding games. Rob just got, for people that don't know, listeners, he just got a 4090 PC, which is he's got all the bells and whistles. He went all in. And you're loving that experience overall too?
Yeah, I mean, remarkable. It's outrageous. I could probably write a paper about it because it's really really amazing. But yeah, I as I mentioned on in the group chat and on a few of the on our Facebook group that it was a lifelong dream of mine to have a really strong PC, and there's never the right time. The minute you buy it, it's already outdated. I realize that. I recognize that.
Yeah.
But like you and I were talking about, Derek, about how years ago it was, you bought this device, and I'm talking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you bought it. There was no internet to look. There were no Reddit posts to figure out what to do if you made an error. You'd get on the phone and hope you got a customer service agent that would have an idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's not how it is today, as we all know. You can hop on Google and search what your problem is, and like 99% of the time figure out what the problem is. So
even like the lot of the, like, because we use NVIDIA cards,
yeah,
like the apps that they have now. In fact, they're releasing. I had talked to you in the chat, like, hey, you should check out your control panel, and you can mess around with some of the settings, and it changes your picture and stuff like that, which I've been absolutely in love with. But I'm not going to sidetrack the conversation again. But then literally right after I shared that with you, Digital Foundry releases a video talking about how NVIDIA is releasing a control panel app, an all new one, making it completely user friendly. There's no delays like there is in the control panel. Everything is you understand, and it's all in one. So it's not control panel app and your driver app and your performance app. It's all becoming one. And the point in me sharing that is that's what PC gaming is becoming. It's taking the best parts of PC and starting to eliminate the bad parts of it by replacing the bad parts of it with, hey, what do consoles do really good? You pick up a controller, you hit the power button, and you're ready to go. You don't have to download all these updates. You don't have to deal with what's this? Why isn't
That's
this
why I'm a
working right?
console plebeian
Yeah.
still.
And I totally get it, because there are still, even with me becoming more and more informed on PCs and how it works, there is still manual parts of it where it's like, hey, like for instance, I was playing, I forgot the game, but I was playing a game on in 8K, and I was just blown away. I was like, this is so awesome. And then it just kept, like, it would play at high frame rates, everything seemed to be running right, and then it would crash. And I'm like, oh no, no. What's going on? Why is this crashing? Well, it was my driver. I just updated my driver not too long ago, but they had put out another update, and I haven't had it crash since then, so it has to be the driver. But again, I'm just assuming it's the driver. It could have been something else. You never know. There's a lot of variables, but my point is they're doing better at getting it to a place where it's like they're eliminating more and more variables. Plus, we as a whole, gamers, are becoming more and more educated that it's becoming even easier to operate these systems as well. So they're doing better creating them and making them more user friendly, but also users are becoming more informed and making the whole setup easier to use. But all right, so let's move on. We had a great conversation about some tech, which I was excited about doing, but I want to
Hey,
talk
I have a quick
games.
question for you guys, real
Yeah,
quick, before we move on. So, since you guys are so invested in PC now, are you guys both done buying Xboxes?
I'm probably done with Xbox. I'm not done with PlayStation. So if they release a PS5 Pro later this year, because PlayStation still is, and I truly believe this isn't conspiracy theory. I 100% believe they do this intentionally. They continue to release most of their games, not if not all exclusives, day one on PS5, and then they refuse to release them day one on PC, and they intentionally do it 6 months to a year later because I think they want you to double dip. I really do. Whereas Xbox, like, day one everywhere. We don't care, and you can use Game Pass and give us. I don't pay $15, but give us, $15, $17 a month, and you can play them right away on PC or your Series X. So I'm probably done with Xbox. The only reason why I say probably, let's see what they announce, because I do think they're going to have their little mid generation upgrade. Is it just going to be power? If it's just going to be power, I've already got a PC. If they're going to do something else that makes me go, hey, I can't do that on my PC. And that would make me want to play this on Xbox. Like, because I love desk gaming, but there are days where I'm exhausted because I'm sitting at my desk all day where I just want to lay back and play a game in my bed on my big screen. So if an Xbox or a PS5 Pro is giving me 4K at 60 frames per second, or at least 40 frames and above, which we didn't talk about it. 30 is, you can see the stutter. 40 is a lot. There's a big jump from 30 to 40. And when you play at 40 and everything's native 4K, it runs a lot smoother. So if games are running every game across the board 4K native at 40 to 60 frames per second, then I see no reason why not to buy definitely at least a PS5 Pro, but maybe even an Xbox Series X, whatever it's going to be called, if it offers at least something else. But for me personally, my PCs, and this isn't me flexing or being cool PC master race, it just absolutely obliterates everything. It destroys consoles. So no, Series X doesn't give me a reason. You, Rob?
No, I absolutely will buy the next consoles. Because I've learned one thing about myself as I've gotten older is that I can lie to myself over and over and over again that I'm done buying X, I'm done buying Y, I'm finished with Nintendo because I'm an old man now, even though I have a mustache like Mario. Like I can make all of these ridiculous assertions, and the minute they start advertising, I am a sucker for marketing.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about Xbox, you guys know very well, and as the groups know, I'm a huge Gears of War fan. So
Yeah.
if they were to do a special edition, a Series XX or whatever it is, I'm pre-ordering immediately. And even if they don't, whatever it is, I would want it. I just know myself. I will hyper
No,
focus on
I
whatever
get
it
it.
is, and I'll want it. You know?
I'm a tech dude, and
Right.
so anything in this area, when it comes to TVs, monitors, gaming systems, I'm always like, what's next? What's next? Like, even when I get something brand new, like I just got this 4090 PC, I'm like, what's next? Lenovo Go at that 800p. Come on, baby. I'm playing 8K, but I'm talking about buying something that does 1600p. I'm stupid. I have no problem saying that. I like making fun of myself, but it's because I like tech.
Right.
So
Right. I'm the
I'm
same
saying
way.
what I'm saying. I'm a definite on the PS5 Pro. You still have to sell me on the Series X Plus, but in the past, I would have been a definitive, yeah, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. I'm going to try to buy 5 of them. Like, that's just how I've always been. Now it's like, no, you've got Xbox, and it's more Xbox. You got to sell me a little bit better because I'm a little bit disappointed. It took me a long time to get to a place where I'm like, I'm a little disappointed in your brand right now. You've been talking for so long. You have so many games I want to play, and you keep talking and talking and talking. When are you just going to start shelling them out and giving me a reason to be excited? So that's another topic for another day, which actually I would love to have you two on and talk about, because I think you and the three of us always have really good conversations about not console wars, but like the state of where consoles are and how we see them. So maybe in the future we'll hit on that. So let's move on to games. And I just put this on here because I knew 2 of us were playing this. I haven't talked about it on the show yet, and that's Helldivers 2. I just wanted to open it up to anybody who's played it. What are your thoughts on Helldivers 2? Because it's kind of taking over the gaming world, and it's not one of those. Let me say this: Pow World blew up the gaming world, but I have to say I feel like it's kind of died down a lot. Helldivers 2 is not dying. It just keeps growing and growing and growing to even to the point where my friends who buy 1 game a year are talking to me. I'm not selling them on it because if anything, I was probably like, my opinion of it was at first was, but they are like, hey, you playing Helldivers 2? I think I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it, and they went and bought it, and now they're like obsessed with it. So, who's playing it, and what are your thoughts of Helldivers 2?
Go ahead, Rob. I'm not playing it.
Okay. So yeah. It has that is a phenomenal intro for the game. It has really taken the world by storm, like a bit like Pal World has. I've enjoyed my time with Helldivers 2. I think there's some phenomenal systems outside of their server problems that they experienced the first couple weeks. I think there's some really phenomenal mechanics in the game. What I also believe though is that it's definitely one of those games that really, and I know Jesse and I have talked about this ad nauseum, is that it really excels when you're playing with friends. It's really one of those games that, yes, you can play with randos, and yes, you can get your XP and get your whatever you're looking to do in it, but it's just not fun, as fun in my mind, unless you're playing with buddies. And that's one of the few games that I could say that, because Derek, I have played so many hundreds of hours of Destiny without.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Destiny too.
Yeah, without you, Derek, without Jesse, without other guys that I've been friends with, and I've had a wonderful time. I've had an absolutely wonderful time playing Destiny by myself. I don't feel that way with Helldivers. Like, it's not like, unless I'll log into Steam, and if you're in a group, Derek, you're in a group with 2 or 3 other guys, and a few of other friends are already in groups with other people, I'm not popping it. I'm not playing it by myself. It's just, It really, there is no interest for me to play that game unless I'm scheduling a time with my buddies to play that game. And that is one of the first games that I can honestly say that about. And it's not a demerit towards the game. I think it's really well done. It's beautiful. Looks outstanding on my PC. The systems are fun. It is incredibly challenging. I will say I wasn't expecting how incredibly challenging the game is. And it definitely forces you to use all your senses to think. The puzzles are intuitive, but you need to be paying attention. The combat's really good. The combat is hard. You're not just diving and jumping like you're used to other things.
Yeah, I would say comparing it to Destiny 2, it's so easy to play with randoms on Destiny 2. Literally, the only thing you really can't do is what are they called? The raids, in which they pretty much, do they still restrict you from doing raids with randoms?
So it depends. There are certain ones I think that are still restricted. I don't think they've opened it up, and they shouldn't, because you really need to work together.
You have to. There's too many like puzzles in those. Which, by the way, Not a big fan of raids because I hate puzzles, but especially since there's a lot of them are like, you got to jump when this person's shooting, and I'm like, dude, just stop. But my point is this, um, it is you can play because there is level of difficulties. There's easy, medium, hard, and I think there's difficulties above that. I've only done medium and hard most of my playing. It is really difficult to play with strangers. You can do it on easy and medium, but hard, unless you're playing with somebody who knows what they're doing, the game really relies on cooperation. As to use an example, there's many times where you will be overrun, and you can only use special like abilities. You can't spam them. You can use it, and then there's a timer and you have to wait, and some of these timers are 2-3 minutes, so it's not wait 20 seconds and then you can drop missiles down on them again. It's you're waiting. So if all four of you, which this happened, I played last night, or was it last night or the night before? I played this weekend. um for a significant amount of time, and I was playing with strangers, and there was a point, and this was on hard, where we were being overwhelmed and all four of us were just dropping bombs and dropping them on ourselves because I blew up several times. I'm like, what the hell? What are you guys doing? What are you aiming at? I had one guy who was revived and he was dropping in to be revived and he landed right on top of me. I'm like, you can see me on the map. What are you doing? That is dumb. And you can only revive your teammates a certain amount of time. So it's a high number based off of your level of difficulty, but on the harder levels, like hard, I used them all. Our team used them all, and that's when I realized, wait, oh, we're reviving every time one person dies. That's actually dumb. You should wait until some like 2 or 3 people are dead because every time you use a revive, it's just one revive, but you can heal or not heal, but you're bringing back all 2 or 3 guys, whoever you're doing. Whereas if you keep doing it one at a time, like if one guy dies, you bring him in, and literally as soon as you bring that guy in, another one dies, you have to do it again, and that costs too. So it's possible. It is possible. It's not as fun, and it becomes ridiculous because that game, I believe, really relies on, hey, you guys got to talk to each other. If somebody's going to drop bombs, the other 3 shouldn't be doing it. Or if you're going to drop it here, the other person should be dropping it here so you wipe out everything. That type of stuff. There's a lot of
Yes.
strategy. The other
Yes.
thing that I experience a lot of is one and done. So you go in, you do a map, and then everybody's like, I don't want you on my team, and kicks you out. Whereas Destiny, I never deal with that bull crap. It's just you join a match, you just keep going. I just keep cycling. Even if it brings in new people, I never get interrupted. I get kicked out and back to my ship after almost every match. I'm like, all right, let me go run over to the map, tell it I wanted to do quick play again, join a game, play the game, finish the game, get booted, go run and do it again. Destiny doesn't do that. If I'm doing, it's not a raid, but whatever, the strikes. I love strikes. That's my favorite because it's just shoot things, don't think, just shoot and do it with other guys. It just cycles to the next strike over and over, and you get new players all the time. And Destiny's so big, you always have players. So my overall experience is I like the game, but I 100% agree with you, Rob. It is one of those games that it goes from being decent to good, meaning not I'm not grading it on quality. I'm talking about experience here. Decent to good to phenomenal when you're playing with friends because those guys that bought the game, I got to play with them. So I think I played with them Monday night, and it was so much more fun playing with them because we were talking the whole time. One of them was he had just gotten the game, but he had played it so much he was telling me stuff I didn't even know. I was like, I didn't know that. He's like, yeah, do this, or at this level you can unlock this ability, and I'm like, dude, I want that ability because he's showing me it, and I'm like, I want that. So it actually got me to where I'm like, I need to log in and play this. Um, so it's a good game. I get the addiction. I do believe it's going to be around for a while. The other thing I think they do really good is there are microtransactions, but everything that you can buy with real money, you can buy with in-game money. And I also like that as you explore the levels, you can actually grab that currency, and if you get on the ship with that currency, you take it home. If you die and you lose the currency, you lose it. So it's another like cool little thing of like, hey, we got to be smart because we want to get the most samples, the most currency to buy all this stuff to unlock more abilities, more tools, whatever weapons in the game. And it's all in game, which is encouraging players to keep playing instead of going, hey, spend $9.99 so you can get these points to buy this gun. No, I want to buy a game. I don't mind if you lock things away. In fact, I love when games lock things away, but lock them behind in game. And as long as it's not competitive, if you want to also provide an option of me spending real world money because I don't want to waste my time unlocking this, allow it. Again, I'm saying not online. I'm talking about single player experiences, not online multiplayer where you get an advantage over somebody. Um, I'm totally fine with that, but I think everything should be in game, especially if you're charging me 60 to 70 bucks. So anyways, overall,
Can I just
yeah.
jump in real quick before we close that topic real quick? The other thing I just want to say about that game is kudos to the developer, because what we're talking about, Derek, I think, with having to play with buddies and playing with friends and using mics, that was a very similar situation with Helldivers 1. I did not play that game, but the people that did, guys I knew from our groups, Moose and some of these other dudes, Matt, Jesse, these guys played this game religiously, and it was because they enjoyed working together and using teamwork. And good for them to make the second game very similar to that, a different perspective, third person, which is something I enjoy.
Which is a huge change for me.
Exactly.
Because I didn't like Helldivers 1 only because of the perspective. But this second one going third person, and even when you're aiming down sights, it's first person, which I totally love. I love it. I agree. I agree. Jesse, any thoughts on Helldivers 2? Are you interested in it? Is it something that you might purchase in the future, or is it a no forever? Or if it comes
I am interested
free.
in it because, like Rob noted, I did put a lot of hours in Helldivers 1. I thought that game was tons of fun because it was back when
you have terrible taste. Let me stop you there. You have terrible taste. So you saying a game's really good, listeners, it's not good. I'm just kidding. Go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
It was back. I played that back when I actually played online with people. So it was wicked fun getting together with people and playing. If I still had a community that played regularly and made the investment in the game worth it to me, then I would buy it because I do think it would be fun to play with people. But like Rob noted, I even with Destiny and other games like that, I do not play those solo. I don't enjoy them solo. But I find all of them to be a lot of fun when I'm playing with a group of dudes and socializing, having fun. So yeah, that would be my stipulation.
Totally understood. And I think with like guys like us, I have no problem saying this because especially Rob and I, and Rob, if I say anything that you disagree with, cut me off. We like to buy games, and as much as I put a ton of hours of Destiny 2, it's kind of like my comfort food. I'll just randomly go back to it and get like locked in, sucked in for a little bit, and then I leave when new releases come. And so my point is that I know I never tell people buy a game to play with me. That's dumb because I'll play with you a few times, and then the next greatest thing comes out, like Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming out. I'll probably just uninstall Helldivers 2 just to show it that it's a piece of crap compared to Dragon's Dogma 2. All hail Dragon's Dogma 2. But anyways, that's dramatic. But my point is that I move on. And I know through with us, we conversate a good amount throughout the week, just messaging each other, and our lives are just too busy. Like even when we have downtime, we're usually exhausted. So sometimes just even getting online to play a game and conversate can be exhausting. So I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. So it's I totally get it. As adults, it gets even harder to play with the same group cooperatively. The last time I ever, like, I'm talking every weekend, Friday, Saturday night, all the way till 4 in the morning, same game, meaning we didn't change it. The last time I got sucked into a game like that was Rainbow Six Vegas. Was it
Wow.
2? I want to
What
say
about
Vegas
Rocket
2.
League?
Yes, that's me, but that was more me. I would play with other people, but it wasn't the same group always playing it like scheduled. Like Vegas was every Friday and Saturday. In fact, I was constantly getting yelled at my wife because I was literally worthless. Because I would just be like the next day. It was like I was hungover because I was playing that game way too much. But it was so addicting. And what was addicting was that was another game that forced you to play with your teammates. You had to strategize. So even though it was against other players, you couldn't just Rambo it and be like, you had to work and talk to each other. Where are you going? Where's the enemy? Blah, blah, blah. Can you get around to that side? So that's the stuff I like. Helldivers has got that to a certain extent. It's not the same game, but I'm saying you got to strategize. But overall, I'm a different gamer. I enjoy the single player experiences way more than I do the co-op. But there's nothing in my opinion better than those co-op experiences, even if they're not as regular as I like, that you get to have, because it's just like going to dinner with buddies. But instead of eating and getting fatter, you're playing a game and just and thinking and strategizing, using your brain and having fun and having great conversations. I know last time Rob and I played, we were up till like 3 in the morning and we stopped playing the game at 12 because I was having Helldivers 2 server issues, and I was like, and I told him, I was like, Rob, I already uninstalled it. I'm done. And so I thought we were going to stop talking, and we just kept talking. He booted up Destiny 2. I actually booted up Destiny 2, but we were playing in separate games because we didn't have the same, another conversation for another day. But he was playing on Steam, I was playing on Xbox. But the point is we ended up just chatting for like another 3 hours, and those are awesome, awesome experiences.
Some of the best.
Yeah. Before I move on to the next topic, anybody else have any comments, anything on Helldivers 2? All right. Well, let's move into a game that I talked about in my first show with my guest Tim quite a bit, but I think it's only fair because the whole point of the show is to bring on new people with new perspectives to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And we're doing this specifically
Take care,
for
guys.
Rob.
Be well.
Rob's a huge fan. Rob's a huge fan of Final Fantasy. He literally fantasizes it all the time. In fact, we have to mute him in our chat because I'm like, dude, stop talking about Final Fantasy, please. Please stop talking about your JPR, JP, JPR, JRPG. Thank you. It's like I'm drinking alcohol. Your JRPG fantasies. We don't want to hear it anymore. We don't even like those games. But serious talk. Final Fantasy VII. I want Jesse's view on this. First and foremost, what is your history with Final Fantasy VII? The original.
Oh, I played the original. I played every mainline Final Fantasy game. Played and beat every mainline Final Fantasy game.
So you are bisexual. Got it.
No, I think that just proves my manhood, really.
The fact that you can publicly say, I play with guys who have too much gel in their hair. Got it.
So I played with the guys.
That is true. There are some, especially in Final Fantasy VII. Holy crap, there's a lot of distractions in that game. What is your thoughts, though, on Final Fantasy VII, the original? Where would you place it? We're not going to rank all the Final Fantasy games. That would take too long. But, like, where would you place it in your list of Final Fantasy games of best all time? Would it fall into 1, 3, 5? Where's it at?
It would be in my top 5.
Top 5. So you're a big fan.
It's definitely one of my favorites, yeah.
All right, cool. And I take it you played Remake.
Oh, yeah.
And Crisis Core?
Oh, yeah. I played the original Crisis Core, and I did play the remake, but I haven't actually beat the remake of Crisis Core.
All right. So you're a fake fan because I beat the remake of Crisis Core. So I'm a real fan. All right, so but you know the story, and we're not
Oh
going to
yeah.
spoil anything for the listeners. We might talk about like stuff early game, but nobody's going to be like, "Hey, here's what happened." We get. Here's what I would say. Final Fantasy VII is an old game. So when people are like, it's justified to talk about whatever you want because it's old, there's a lot of people that are just got into gaming that weren't even born when Final Fantasy VII came out. So to expect that they played it and beat it with this new version of the game coming out and that they should know the story is kind of, in my opinion, a little ridiculous. So I'm just saying that just so people know I'm not going to be spoiling the story. Also, I kind of talked about it in the last week's show, or not last week, but the last show, the first show we did. This is it's it's following the path sort of the first one, but it leaves so many openings for it to go in any direction that it's really not the same game. Yes, it's the same characters. Some of the areas are the same. Some of that stuff's obviously the same. But as far as story beats, excuse me, they are changing things significantly that I can say you can't sit there and say I played Final Fantasy VII, so therefore I know what they're doing in this new trilogy, because you really don't know what they're doing in
Yep.
this new trilogy. So with that being said, I want your update on where you are in Rebirth. Did you beat it? Are you in the later chapters? How many hours? Where are you at right now with the game?
I am in chapter 11.
Okay.
So, just for context, I just reached Nibelheim, which is one of the major locations in the
Yeah.
game.
I'm sorry, did you say Nipplheim?
Yeah, that's
Sure.
exactly what I said. Yeah.
Fair
That was
enough.
gonna be my joke, and I held off, so I appreciate you because I've been absolutely cheesy tonight. And even if we have listeners, they've already checked out because they're like, "This guy is terrible. He thinks he's funny and he's ridiculous." So thank you, Rob, because that's the first thing I was like, "Nipplehorn, Nipplehorn." I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. All right, back to you, Jesse. So
uh,
you're in chapter 11.
yes,
Do you know
and
how many hours you are in?
I've put about 75 hours into it so far.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
you're
doing
definitely
a
taking your time.
large amount of the side content. So
Okay,
I've completely cleared 3 of the regions. Of the 6 regions that I've visited, I've cleared 3 of them.
okay,
So I will say on that topic,
yeah. I was
now
gonna
that
ask
I've
for your input.
done a metric crap ton of the side content, it is getting a bit repetitive with the side content, and the sheer volume of like little mini games that they have you do are taxing, to say the least.
I 100% agree. And I didn't talk about it on my last show because I hadn't gotten to that point where I felt that way. I was 20 hours in. I'm now 42, 43 hours in. I'm in chapter 10.
So
So
you're
you can see the,
mainlining it a bit more.
but that's the thing. The only area that I haven't done most of the side content is actually the grasslands, and that's because I thought I was going to be able to return, so I didn't want to overstay. I still did a significant amount, but I was like, oh, I want to see where the story's going. I'll be able to come back. It blocked me, so I've been like, okay, when can I go back to the grasslands? I want to go back to the
You can
grasslands because
now. You definitely
now
can
I
now.
can. Yeah. So and I will, but before I did that, I'm actually almost done completing the other open area that I'm in before chapter 10. So I'll let you figure out where I'm at. Which, by the way, has the best music in all of the
Oh,
game.
yeah.
I
Wholehearted, strong agree.
absolutely, it goes back to what, and I don't know if you guys listened to my first episode, and if you didn't, I hate you. That's rude. You should be supporting me. Um, but I said in there, the experience that I got playing this game was it gave me a Disney World vibe. I know there's Kingdom Hearts. I'm not an idiot, but it just as I'm playing this, I'm like I feel like nostalgia for like Disney World. I feel like the music, the setting, the characters, everything feels very Disney-esque. Um, which I know that triggered probably a lot of people now because that's a hot topic nowadays. But my point is that it's just the vibe of how they they present the world in the game, and that particular open area with that music, and they do it in the other parts of the game, but this one in particular, I was like,
It
I
stands out.
love this music. I love this area. I love everything about this, which was good because I was starting, and I'm going to be fair to the game. I always think I'm a fair person. I was starting to go, maybe we should start mainlining, and it is because what's today? 3/17. In 5 days, a certain game's dropping that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is no longer worthy. And so I get to that point where I'm like, you should probably start mainlining to beat this game. But that being said, I'm not doing it. I keep going and I'm not doing really you're probably doing all the side missions. I'm doing the side content. I don't like the missions. A lot of the missions are just stupid. I'm talking about the little green icons where they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
go fetch my chickens. Shut up, lady. I'm not getting your chickens. I'm not dragging some stupid thing to get your chickens. Or there was another one, because I was doing a lot of them earlier, but there was
You're
another
selling
one
it
where,
to me without a
oh,
doubt.
yeah.
You both are
Oh,
selling it to me.
absolutely. Well, that was the goal. I want to make you miserable, Rob. This is misery Rob time. There's another one where he's like, hey, I need my wood or something like that. I'm like, bro, why do I have to go get it from a certain area that is all over the map? There's literally wood everywhere. What is your
It's
problem?
it's littered with fetch quests. It is.
Yeah, and it's just some of them stupid, which I've talked about Final Fantasy 16 on my other previous podcast a lot, and I absolutely love that game. And I get all of the negativity of the side content, especially the first, I want to say 2/3 of the game. But once you get to the latter third, and it actually harkens back to the first 2/3 in some ways, some of them are just ridiculous side content, but it starts to make a little bit more sense as you get to know the characters and stuff. Like, they have great side content. I'm talking side quests in the latter third of Final Fantasy 16 that I actually really enjoy. Not only just combat wise, but actually story and narrative and character wise. This game is yet to do that. There's just too many dumb fetch quests, too many stupid. There are some side content, like I did a couple with Barrett or for Barrett, and it says your relationship with Barrett has changed, which
Yes.
I get that Final Fantasy is the gayest of gay games, but I'm actually not trying to be gay for Barrett. I would rather it be Tifa thinks you're hot. That's who I'm after, not Barrett. But I keep turning Barrett on apparently because I keep getting him bigger guns.
I mean, you
That
can be like friends with other guys.
Guys, this is a safe area. I think you should both tell us about who you're friends with. Yeah.
That was actually going to be a question I was going to ask because I wanted to know what's your main, or are you switching characters out all the time? What's your main three that you use in the game for battles and stuff?
It really depends on the situation. I guess my most typical would probably be, I mean, obviously Cloud, Barrett, and Aerith. Just because Aerith is like the healer, she has all
Because you have bad
the
taste in women. I got it. How you pick Aerith over Tifa? No.
she is the better girl.
I know. That's why I said it, because I know from our background you like Aerith, and I'm like, terrible taste. You are gay. She's shaped like a skinny man. She has no she has no curves. She has no curves at all. This is confirmation that you are rainbow. June is your month. Is that the gay month or is it July? I don't remember.
Cheers.
All right, so you like Aerith, you like Barrett, and you like Cloud.
Yeah,
So
Barrett because he has the higher health pool, so he kind of like tanks it a little bit. He can take a bit more punishment. Aerith for the healing and buffing,
yeah,
and then Cloud's just my all-out attack kind of character.
which what's funny is I actually turned Barrett into Aerith, so he's still got his his health pool, and he's actually extremely powerful with his gun.
Yeah.
But I've turned him into my healer. Like I have it where I use I switch characters all the time. Not like my party. I'll tell you my party in a second. I don't switch them out unless the game forces me, because I really like the three I'm using. But I have for Barrett, in case I run into where my health is getting low and I didn't pay attention. Anytime his ATB is hits where he can use a special ability, I have a materia in there that tells him automatically heal me, send it out. So he's my main healer. I use Cloud most of the time. Again, I switch, but he's my main. And I also can heal with Cloud. So I'm very I'm paranoid when it comes to healing when it comes to these games. So I make sure I always have two characters that have high healing ability, and it's
my
those
Cloud can
two.
heal also.
And then the character that I'm in shock that he's such a badass because I benched him in the beginning of the game, and then I watched a video where this guy was like, this is the dude. This guy needs to be in your party." And I was like,
Red 13.
You got it. You're right. He needs to be in my party. Red 13 is not only is he an awesome character in the game, he brings a lot of humor. There's a lot of humor. Like, it's not a funny game, but there's just a lot of back and forth with Red 13, Cloud, Barrett. They're all funny.
Without spoiling, I'm just curious. There is a certain major story beat with Red 13 that I could, at this point, give a flying crap about him anymore. I'm curious if you hit that same story beat.
I don't think so. Is it like a side quest?
Where his voice changes?
I feel like he's had the same voice.
I guess you're not
so maybe,
there yet, then.
Maybe I missed it.
I thought that happened in Chapter 9, but...
How much did it cost, and where were you at the time, Jesse?
So think about it this way. When you talk to me about games, especially Final Fantasy is a girl. So when it talks to me, I only listen to certain things. And I'm mainly staring at its tits the entire time. So when you're like, "Hey, I hit the story beat. What's your thoughts on it?" I'm like, boobs? What are you talking about? So that's hilarious. He is talking, but I'm like, was there something that happened that I completely missed? And I don't feel like
I'm in Cosmo Canyon.
Okay, I completely missed it.
Well,
now I have to Google it
to avoid spoilers and stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to Google it and figure out what the heck you're talking about. But I still like him as a character. But I need to know what you're talking about. I think he's
obnoxious now. Just obnoxious.
He doesn't overly talk with me that he's become obnoxious. He just says little lines that I'm like, I think are funny sometimes. I don't like his, and maybe this is kind of what you're talking about, his barking, which is a human bark. I'm like, this sounds stupid. But that was from the beginning of the game he was doing that. Or not barking, growling.
That's not what I'm talking about. Well, okay. we can talk about it after.
We'll talk about it later. But overall, here's my thing. I praised the heck out of this game in my first episode, and I was 20 hours in. I will say it's decreased a little bit for me. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's not. It's just the tedious side quests combined with, and this is in the main quest, way too many dumb little you're forced to play this mini game to move the main story forward. I don't care if you do that a few times. Most games do that. They'll be like, "Hey, we want you to play this side content, so we're going to include it in the main quest, kind of force you to do it." And I even said in last show, I said, because they forced me to play Queen's Gambit or Blood Gambit or Blood Queen or
Gambit, Queen's Blood.
Whatever. Queen's Blood. I screwed it all up. Because they forced me to do it in the main quest, I actually started to like it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it on the side. Whereas before, I was like, when it was just strictly side, I was like, nope, I don't play card games. But then they just kept doing it, and I'm like, please stop. This feels like filler. And I get it if your game was 20 hours and you're trying to make it a little bit longer, by a few hours. This game's already long enough. In fact, if you go on How Long to Beat, the fact that people are saying you can mainline this game in 38 hours blows me away, because I don't know how you could do that unless you put it on easy and you just literally ignore everything and you're a robot and you just go forward.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of content here. And
there's too much, to be honest.
Yeah, there's too much in my opinion, but I'm not going to bash them for that. I get that it would be worse if they had not enough. So I'd rather you have too much. It's just kind of the way they implement it is not the best way. And kind of to loop Rob in, I try to sell Rob on because he has terrible takes when it comes to Final Fantasy. He hates anything that's uh he's your alpha male. Everything has to be guns and blood and boobs and stuff like that.
Except for Granblue, which I've seen some of the girl characters in that game, and they look exactly like what he dogs on.
We're gonna talk Granblue. We're gonna talk Granblue because Rob is contradicting himself, and that was actually what I was gonna call him out for. But anyways, so I normally sell him on Final Fantasy games, and I still think he should buy Final Fantasy 16 on PC and not just buy it and download it. Buy it, download it, and play it, and really play it, because he's gonna love the gameplay, and he's gonna eventually go, okay, I get some of this stuff still a little Final Fantasy annoying, but the dark themes, the more serious tone, most of the characters are more serious. They're not lighthearted, like, hey, crack a joke, ha ha ha. Whereas there's a lot of goofy characters in Final Fantasy VII. So even though I think Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth have some of the best combat, I can still, without a doubt, say it's not a Rob game. I'm not even going to push him to be like, you should try it. You should try it. Because it's not even like Granblue as far as the combat. It's more strategic. It's a little bit slower, and the way they implement all the stuff in the story and main quests that distract you from just playing the game, it's not a Rob game. Whereas Granblue, which we're gonna get into next, that was on my notes, there's very little filler. In fact, one of the complaints you could have about Granblue is it's a little too straight to the point. Like, go here, fight this, boom, boom, boom. You finish that level. Go to the next one, boom, boom, boom. You're done with that. There's very little exploring. There's parts of it and stuff like that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, with the open world nature or open area nature of a lot of these levels, so much exploring. There's so many mini game distractions. There's so many bad side quest distractions. There's distractions everywhere. Also, I don't know if you ran into this, Jesse. I found myself especially the open areas where there's highs and lows and mountains and all that, getting lost. Like, I'll see something on a map and I'll be like, I need to get to this. Why can I not get to this? I'm going in circles. I know it's above me or below me. I don't know where, and I don't know how to get to it. Yeah. It's not terrible, like, oh my God, this is so infuriating.
Eventually,
but
I
it's
figure
happened.
it out. Yeah.
Yes. But there's been a couple where I actually had to YouTube it because I'm like, I'm going in circles, and I don't get it. Where is this thing? And then I watch it, and I'm like, okay, got it.
The greatest. The map isn't bad by any means, but it could be better.
It's still hard to tell what's high and low, and is this a mountain or a cliff that I can climb or I can't, or what is it? You don't know by the mountain. You have to go there, and then you stand in front and you go, I can't climb this. Whereas maybe another thing that looks almost the same on the map, you're like, oh, I can climb that.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
We've been talking about all the negatives, and I do want to talk about some of the good things, because there is a reason why I put over 70 hours into it.
A bitter Betty, we hate everything podcast. We're not here to talk about the goods of gaming. We're here to find where is the racism, where is the sexism, where can I hate
you
this game?
You liking Tifa is the sexism.
Bro. Come on. All right. But yes, finish up. What's your overall take? What's your positives? That was actually on my notes, positives and negatives.
So the one thing I do like about Final Fantasy VII, the original and what's being recreated in their remake and rebirth, is this world. I think it's an incredible world and environments and storyline that they have created and are now recreating that is very engaging. Everything about the life stream and Sephiroth and all of that, I think is very engaging. And I do love all of the characters, to be honest. There's not many games that give you companions where I typically like all of them. That's pretty rare, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single character I don't like. In terms of like gameplay, I would say
I don't use
Kate
Kate Sith
Sith
very much for
Kate
gameplay.
Sith is my least favorite.
Yeah.
He's not terrible, but he's not fun for me.
Yeah.
Aerith would probably be my second least favorite, but that's because that has nothing to do with her. That's I don't like mages in any game. They're necessary. I don't like playing as them. I find that to be the most boring. Now I'm forgetting the word.
Class.
Not build, but class
Yeah.
in all of like RPG gaming. I just don't like it. I'm more of a melee. Like that's why Cloud's perfect. And I do enjoy Barrett. And I'll say this: you'll be like, well, people will be like, well, Aerith's long range, so is Barrett. But Barrett has weight, and some of his moves, like his overload and all that stuff, is just
They
so
pack a
powerful.
punch.
Yes, whereas Aerith is like, pew, pew, pew. Oh, I should heal. And her light little fairy voice, she's so freaking feminine, and it's like, oh my gosh, no, I can't. But Barrett, I can handle. I wouldn't main him. Like if the game was like, you only play one character, pick your character, and that's who you're playing. It's always going to be Cloud. Not just because he's the face of Final Fantasy, but that's my favorite type of play style.
And he's designed to be the main character, the main
Oh,
user. Yeah.
absolutely. And it's you can tell it's intentional because the second sword you get with him, and I talked about in this last podcast I did. This isn't a spoiler. I'm not going to go into details of what it is. The second sword you get a special move that is a awesome special move that you just want to use throughout the entire game. Even when you switch swords, that special move can carry over. All of them can. There's special moves attached to each weapon, not just his sword, but each weapon in the game. Special ability, special move. And if you use it enough and you max it out, it goes to that next sword. It becomes part of your roster of moves.
Right.
And so that is still my go-to. Even if it's not the weakness of the enemy, it's such a, first of all, awesome move to watch visually, but it's also just powerful in general. Even if the character or the enemies aren't even weak to uh, the type of magic he's using on that move. It's just visually an awesome move to pull off. But yeah, he's clearly the face of the franchise, and they definitely give him some of the coolest move sets, some of the coolest weapons. The weapon I have right now, the purple blade that I'm using, is very vibrant and cool looking to just look at. But yeah, I'm with you. That especially with the story beats and the redesigning of this game, we can sit here and nitpick the side content like I did. And keep in mind, I was very positive in my first episode, so it's not like I haven't said nothing but great things about this game. We can nitpick that, but at the end of the day, what they're doing with this game that has been put on a pedestal is considered one of the best, if not the best, RPG ever made. And they're doing not only they're not copying and pasting it just uh how it plays, they're not copying and pasting the story. They're taking risk and chances here to upset a lot of people. And they have kind of in the first one I didn't see many people upset with the changes made in remake. I have seen some reviews on Rebirth where they're like, I don't like how they ended it. I don't like the decisions they're making with some of the big things that happen. I haven't gotten there personally, so I can't speak on it. Maybe I'll get there and be like, I don't like this either. It's stupid, or it's a cop out, or maybe it's just they didn't like that it cliffhangs into the third one, which makes sense. So I think overall they've done a really, really good job with this game, and I'm looking forward to beating it. But that being said, just like in the gaming developing industry, there's crunch time. It's Derek's crunch time because come Friday, Final Fantasy needs to move the frick on. All
Well,
right,
good luck
so
with that.
Yeah, well, I'll probably fail. Moving on for that, and I'm going to say the last category of the night. Let's talk a little bit of Granblue Fantasy Relink, which I actually wrote in my notes because I was going to transition this way. What the hell is Granblue Fantasy Relink, Rob? And why the hell are you playing it? Again, if listeners don't know, this is not a Rob game. This is one. In fact, I shared the trailer in our chat, and you immediately said, "Not a Rob game," and then came back a month later and was like, "Hey guys, have you heard of Granblue? This game's pretty cool." And I'm like, "Bro, I shared it as a joke, and now you're like, so I'm gonna let you talk. What the hell is Granblue Fantasy, and why are you playing it, Rob?"
Right. So here's the thing. In very in very interesting discussion format is that I'm not one to do podcasts. It's not generally not my sort of thing to do. And as I was thinking about prepping for this show, and I'm thinking to myself, I cannot believe I'm coming on the week that I'm playing a game that is just so completely different, as you mentioned, from anything that I ever play. So you're absolutely right. It is like nothing I've ever played or to play.
This entire show is not. This must be an alternative universe. Us talking handheld gaming, lots of JRPGs. I mean,
I don't feel qualified.
This is not the group of guys that I thought would have this conversation. Is what I'm saying. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no. You're 100% right. I feel like I'm giving your two listeners. I'm really, I'm definitely not giving them a reason to continue to listen. That's for sure. Listen. I don't know what necessarily drew me to this game. I think the fact that the art is so incredibly stunning is what really was the thing that caught me off guard. Perhaps playing on this G9 OLED 49-inch again it's just a really stunning screen, and the watercolor art is just it's really
it's got a lot of
gorgeous.
Like Breath of the Wild, or now I'm gonna forget it.
Wind Waker, almost a little bit.
Yeah, it's got it's a really popular freaking game. My daughter plays it all the time. It's the cell phone game, but it's also on PlayStation and Steam and all that. It's real big, and I'm forgetting it. I apologize. But the art style and the world is very, very much like that in Granblue.
Yeah, no, it's certainly easy on your eyes. And then what really blew me away was the combat system. I mean, straight up, it's fascinating learning that there's, I would say probably about 15 different characters that you eventually can unlock and play, and they all have their different spells and move sets and weapons, and you can level them up, and you have a party system. And I do really love party systems going back to Mass Effect, and it's a bit rudimentary in Granblue. There's not really a lot. You don't get to really control them, but you get to level them up and choose what their skills. Choose what their skills are, and affect your play that way. What really blew me away, or what really intrigued me, were these boss battles, right? So, and I think that having played, a lot of games through my life, I didn't realize Japanese, JRPGs really force you to have a level of patience. Yes. That a lot of games don't teach you to do, but these games really say, hey, listen, this is going to be a 25, 35 minute, 40-minute battle. There's going to be different modes. There's going to be different levels, and you can't just go out there and think you're going to hit a couple special moves and it's over. It's not like that. And that game, and Granblue really forces you to study the boss. It forces you to, figure out your powers, how you want to use them, when you want to use them, and
link them.
Sorry.
And link them.
Link them. Yes, link them, exactly.
Which is in the name. Which, correct. By the way, the game I was thinking about was Genshin Impact.
That's what I was thinking.
Art style wise.
Yep.
Yeah. I was trying to remember it.
And the reason I never touched that was because they call it a gacha game, right? So you buy it, but then it's, you're spending how many hundreds of dollars because there are all these it could be predatory.
There's a lot
right?
of terrible systems in it. It's a cool
Right.
game, but it's there.
Right.
I played it for a few hours and then I was like, no, I'm not waiting 24 hours to then be able to buy health or whatever stupid systems they had in it. I'm not doing that.
Right.
It's dumb.
Right. And yeah, I'm completely in the same boat with that. So, this one, it's whatever, $60 on Steam, I think is what it is. And
Yeah.
you buy it once, and the game is massive. And I didn't realize, the credits rolled, and then the end game started. And I mean, I'm at 40 hours now, and I'm still not finished with it. So, it caught me by surprise. So you have every right to.
This is the greatest gay pride podcast of gaming ever. The Gears and Halo bros are talking about Final Fantasy and Granblue Fantasy back to back, and it's you that's the. I'm not shocked that Jesse and I are enjoying Final Fantasy. It's Granblue. That's such a. It's so JRPG. I get the combat isn't, but like everything about it. Like I beat the story. I did a little bit of in game. I'm not into it like you did. I dropped off because I moved on. I do boot it up every once in a while and just play a little bit, but everything else about it, the story, the characters, so over the top, so JRPG, and it's just funny that you.
Yeah.
I could see you liking it for the combat, getting through the story, which takes about 15 to 20 hours. But the fact that you're like, yeah, I'm 40 hours in and I'm still fighting bosses and still doing in-game crap is really super cool, actually.
It's the dawn of a new day. He's going to be all in on JRPGs now.
Absolutely. We're going to share them every day. We're going to post a new JRPG. You should be watching this video there, Rob. This one's going to be a great one. You're going to love it. Look at this guy's hair. It's awesome. He's using hairspray right now.
I know. I feel, assaulted because I honestly would never, ever touch a game like this in years past. And I can't believe you're having me on to talk about it now. I'm definitely taking a shower after this. I'm definitely probably going to have to play Gears of War as penance for at least 17 hours.
I was going to say, you've got to do something manly for the next month because you've been playing Granblue for a while. So but you need to like wash yourself.
Are your nails painted yet?
I think the thing that's going to save me
on his. This is my favorite one. He looks so cool.
Etsy, I bought a few pillows. I'm changing up my bed sheets to some of the characters. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, you've definitely been shopping on Etsy. You're like, yeah. Get my shirt, my skirt, my matching skirt with my shirt, my blanket, right. All Granblue Fantasy Relinked.
Yeah. I think what's going to help is like you, Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to pull me out of the cloud that I've been in the last month and a half with this game. But as a matter of fact, speaking of, I'm looking forward to. I know you've done this, Derek, but I have to download the character creator. That's what I'm going to do probably after this or this week. I want to get my character and my pawn set up so I don't spend 3 hours.
Go.
Oh, are you? Yeah, nice.
I did it.
Nice.
I did it originally on the PS5, but I did it again on Steam, and I created Leon Kennedy and why am I forgetting her name? Ava.
Nice.
And they actually look pretty close. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. I actually pulled up pictures of them, and I was like, "What's their eye color? How's their hair? I was doing everything because I'm just excited to play that game, and Resident Evil's a big part of my video game heritage. And it's a Capcom game, so
yeah. Question. Speaking of that, I know you could create, and I know you can create 5 characters and then 5 pawns. From my understanding. So if you were to create, let's say, 2 or 3 different characters, when you go into town to change your vocation, could you change your character, or is it you're locked in?
I think you're locked as far as your main character. I think you're locked in with your main character.
Okay. Okay.
Which
Okay.
I will be creating another character because I look through the little names because you can name them, not just typing. They actually have not names that you choose from a list. And I'm guessing that's so they can vocally say those names. I could be wrong, but they had Albert Wesker in there. I was like, oh, I gotta create Albert Wesker, and I'm sure there's a Redfield, and I'm gonna probably make a Claire and Chris. So, yeah, I'm going
Nice.
all in Resident Evil for Dragon's Dogma.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Awesome.
So before we shut this thing down, I think it's first of all, we all jokes aside, I'm really glad you enjoyed Granblue Fantasy. You put more time in it than I did. I did beat it. I did enjoy it. I did move on. I don't know. I'm planning on buying it on PC when it's cheap. I bought it on PS5. I think it looks amazing on PS5. It runs fine. It does run at 30 frames per second if you're playing at 4K like I am. So I don't want to be limited to that. So I will eventually buy it when it's cheap. I think it is an outstanding, fun game. I highly recommend it for Jesse later on. Doesn't need to pay full price. I would go PS5 with his options. I don't think it would be a great Steam Deck game. I think he
I
would do
figured I'd go
better.
PS5 with it.
I think it would be better if you bought it PS5 or wait for it to go on PS5 or PS Plus.
PS5 Master Race.
Yes, PS5 Master Race. There are no good games on Xbox. But to end the show, I know Rob's getting Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm getting it. Jesse, are you getting it? Or you don't care?
I do care. I do plan on getting it, but not day one.
Yeah, because you're a terrible gamer. Got it. Okay.
Damn right. Proud.
So I'm going to end it on this, and we can make it quick because I know we got to get to bed. We got work tomorrow. What was your favorite game or games, if you want to list a few, in 2023? Just off the top of your head, what stuck out for you in 2023?
So I have to think of what games came out in 2023.
I mean, yeah, the one that, and I'll let you think for a second because I know I'm trying to think back to my 23, but the one that sticks out for me, there's two, but the one that sticks out initially would be Diablo 4, and I know it hits a lot of criticisms and the end game and the seasons and all the shenanigans. I don't
still
disagree,
a good game.
but the game is fun, and
It was fun.
The story's fun. The narrative is neat. The cutscenes are crazy, dark, and cool, and deep, and it's just a cool game. They did an awesome job with all that. And then why do I feel like I played From Dusk Till Dawn? It was kind of a weird indie game on Xbox. I feel like I played it in early 23, but I could be wrong. That could be 22. I'm confusing it.
Is that
possibly,
the
but
story-driven one?
yeah,
Where
the
you
story
make choices?
Yes.
I
thought
want to
the
say
art
that
was
was
cool.
2022.
Oh, okay.
I did a spoiler cast with Jeff from Current Gen. I feel like it was 2022, but I could be wrong.
You might be right.
I really enjoyed that game. That's why we did
Yeah.
a spoiler cast because I was like, I got to talk about my decisions. Because
Yeah.
when him and I sat down and talked, we made completely different decisions, and the outcome actually mattered. It's kind of like
Nice.
Baldur's Gate 3, which, by the way, is my number one in 2023. The decisions in that game matter, and that's probably, besides gameplay matters the most. That's the most important thing for me in a game. It's not the story. It's do you give me the power to make decisions? And when I make those decisions, how do they impact the story or the world? And if you do that right, you're usually going to hook me. That's why you've got me. I'm a not Knights of the Old Republic fanboy. I'm a Mass Effect fanboy. I'm a Dragon Age fanboy. All the games, if you look at that I talk about over and over, Baldur's Gate 3, it all makes sense. Derek just likes to control everything and make decisions. Bad decisions, by the way, and destroy people's lives, and I get to play God in those games. So, Jesse,
weren't you pretty high on Hogwarts Legacy also?
Thank you, Jesse. That was the one I was trying to get out and I had forgotten. But yes, I played that in the first half of 23, and you're absolutely right.
That was
Hogwarts
a great game.
Was awesome.
Did you play that, Jesse?
Yeah, I did. I never finished it. I put 35 hours into it, and the side content started to get to me a little bit.
I would ignore it. I would finish it. It's not groundbreaking story, but it's worth just saying, hey, I finished that game because
I do want.
I thought it was great. It's a great game.
It is, and I'll just say, as a fan of the books, obviously, it's really done well. And I don't know how you gents feel. I'll be quick, but I really feel like the castle Hogwarts itself, they could have made a whole game just on that. That was such
It may have been the best part of the
well-designed.
whole game.
Yeah, you may be right, Jess. You may be right. I think it's that good.
It's great game, great choices. Jesse, what's your
So, like you
tops?
mentioned earlier, now that I've really had a moment to think about it, Baldur's Gate 3 is by far, without competition, the best game I played last year. It's by a country mile best game. It's probably the best game I've played in like
so
10
much
years.
depth to that game that I don't. If people haven't played it, I don't think they really realize why it gets so much praise. There's so much depth. The way they
Fully voice acted too, which a lot of
Yeah.
CRPGs aren't.
No, it feels AAA. There's
Yeah.
some things that are a little janky, but it feels AAA. And just the way, like when I was in Act 3 and talking to characters, and it going back to choices and decisions I made in Act 1, and going, the game remembered that, and not only remembered that, but changed the world.
Yeah.
And changed the outcome. And I'm talking significantly, not like these minor, like, I got the red ending, I got the green ending. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people dying or things happening or even boss fights. I remember one boss fight, I shared it on Current Gen podcast, where the way I fought the boss was completely different than how other people could have fought the boss because of certain characters living and dying and decisions I made.
And it's more than that too. I think you really can attack every battle differently. They give you so many options.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And there was one particular battle I struggled with, and I tried over and over because I didn't want people to die, and this person kept dying. And I finally got through the battle, but I had to accept that I'd finally won the battle, but I lost characters. Not my main party characters, but characters that were important to the story. And then later, as I played the game and watched videos, I found out that character, which I in particular liked, who died, actually, if you conversated with her correctly or did things, she could join your party. And I'm like, now I have to play the game again. I have to, because I need her to be in my party, because I need to hit on her and be creepy and stare at her the entire time.
On that note, the other game that I would give a shout out to is Jedi Survivor.
Okay.
That's a game that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Would you rank it higher than Final Fantasy 16, or do you think 16 was better than Survivor?
Probably fairly even.
Okay.
And I'll just
I rated 16 higher, but I liked Survivor way more than I liked Fallen Order. And I actually rated it very high on my list because of the story and everything. I know they had their little technical issues. I didn't run into it too much on my PC. There was some, especially in the last part of the game, where I was like, dude, this is not good. It wasn't optimized very good. But as far as story and driving me to want to see how it plays out, I thought it did a great job.
Then there's some pretty awesome set pieces in that game too.
Oh yeah, some of the best in all of gaming. Which there's lot
one
of good
in particular
ones in
that was awesome.
I think we're probably talking about the same thing, where you are warping with a certain character, and it's like a roller coaster ride. Yeah, it's crazy good.
I remember you guys on that. I like the first one, so, and I don't mean to jump in, but I thought the first one, I thought it was a step back. The first one was fantastic, and
We're definitely blocking you. You will not be on the show ever again. You're wearing a damn Jets hat, and then you come on here and tell me that Fallen Order is better than Survivor. Get out of here. You're done. Blocked on Facebook, blocked in wherever I could communicate with you. You're blocked. I'm kidding. I liked Fallen Order, but I definitely on my podcast bashed it more than the guys that I was on the podcast with. And the running joke, which I still think is funny, is I just basically said, it's not Dragon Age, and you failed because you're not Dragon Age. You're jumping and skipping around everywhere. I don't want to jump and skip around in a freaking Star Wars game. I want to explore the planet like I would explore Dragon Age RPG games. That was the comparison that they got lost, and they're like, how are these two games similar? You're an idiot. And I'm like, I'm not an idiot. I don't want to jump, hop, and skip in a freaking Star Wars game. I want to explore it. And I felt like Survivor, yes, there's a lot of jumping and hopping and skipping, but there was more areas to explore. It felt like a lived area where you're actually journeying and going on an adventure, not just I'm talking the entire planet you're exploring. It's just jump, hop, run on the side of the wall. That was the entire Fallen Order experience. Plus, I don't know if you ran into.
There are a couple things about Fallen Order that I did enjoy better than Survivor, like the second sister from Fallen Survivor or from Fallen Order is better than any villain that's in Survivor.
Yeah, she was good.
The betrayal twist, without trying to get into spoilers, that happens in Survivor is so blatantly obvious, basically from the beginning of the game. So I thought that was kind of cheesy. But I do think but I do think the gameplay itself was stepped up from the original. I think you disagree with me here, Rob. But correct me if I'm wrong. I like the switch up in the styles of fighting and the way the different weapons feel. Like you can have like a heavy attack stance or like a dual wield fast stance and things like that, which I think adds to the way combat can be more deep. And I like the characters and the way they expanded the universe around Cal and Survivor.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's certainly a fair take. I just found the stances to be confusing, and I found that for me, I found one that worked, and I just stuck with it. So to me, I didn't really feel the diversity in stances really mattered. I found them a little confusing, and it just didn't fit for me. And again, this is always a subjective take, right? So what I think, doesn't trump yours in any sense. But to me, I just loved the first one, and I love the exploration, and I enjoyed exploring the first game. I don't know, this game just
Definitely blocked.
Definitely blocked. Yeah.
He's just a big Poncho fan.
I'm sorry.
He's just a big Poncho fan.
I love ponchos. Really big fan.
Next
of
time he's on the podcast, he'll have his hair greased up, wearing a poncho with Aerith on it. Maybe Barrett. He likes those big, muscular black men.
You mentioned purple long swords, Derek, so I figured that was your thing. I don't know. Listen, all I'm going to say is Vader, right? And that's all. I'm going to leave it at that. And
I get
Vader.
What you're saying.
So you guys keep loving too, and I'll stick with one.
The thing is both games are quality. Even with my annoyances with Fallen Order, I did go back and start it up. Like I think I got it on Xbox Series X for like a few dollars. So like a couple of years ago, I started up and I was like, this is a good game. And the way I always work is I generally like almost everything I play. I'm an overall positive gamer. But there can be games in the first time I play it that I get frustrated with, and I'll dock it points. And it's a lot of times, I've talked to Rob about this before, and I talked about it on my last show, where I'll be like, because I didn't understand it, I dock the game and I get mad at it. Then if I go play it a second time and I start to fully grasp it, I'll be like, this game's amazing. And it's because I'm starting to understand it more and I'm becoming more OP and more powerful. And once I get to that point, it's lights out. I'm like, oh, I get it. Now I understand why everybody liked it. The thing I was hung up on that docked it a couple points, I no longer am hung up on that. Now I can move forward and I have a better view of it. So anyways, the point is both those games are outstanding. I did like Survivor more, but I think it was because generally the experience was just better than I had what I remember having the first time I played Fallen Order. But again, I learned from Fallen Order. And then I was better at Survivor. So take it as is. Any other things as we wrap up? Anything you want to share? You guys good?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good on my end.
All right. Well, I thought this was a good show. I hope the listeners enjoyed it as well, and we'll talk to you later.